True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. And if you'd like to skip the intro or move to any specific part of the podcast, please refer to the timestamps listed in the episode description. Thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. It is May 31st here. Olivia is already in June. It was also just Miss Olivia's birthday, so everyone say happy birthday, belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is, I don't know. I know I have to keep saying this, but I feel like I have to keep saying it because it's just like embarrassing that my brain just like does not work because I'm just so sleep deprived and tired and run down. But I'm doing my best. I'm here. I'm showing up for everyone. I do have one. It's not even a story. It's just something silly that it just happened. So it's on my mind. But I've been struggling with baby Jack's sleep, as we all know. And one thing that he has decided he likes to do before he falls asleep is pull out my hair. So not only do I have postpartum hair loss, but even if I put my hair up, he likes to pull, like you have those little pieces that just like won't go in a ponytail because they're like at the bottom of your head and they're just like short little baby hairs almost. He always has to grab those. And when he's like falling asleep, he just like pulls it basically. You're just pulling it. And I could just feel them ripping out, but I'm so desperate for him to sleep. I just let him do it. I don't even care. And then when he's finally like asleep in my arms, I have to like go to his hand while he's sleeping and like pull all of my hairs out from between his fingers so that he doesn't get a hair tourniquet. But that's how desperate I am for him to sleep that I just let him pull my hair out and just deal with the pain.
I remember with my second daughter, when she was probably about Jack's age, about 9 months old, I was a bridesmaid in a wedding, and I remember we were getting our hair done, like the hairdresser came to the house to do it, and it was a guy, and he goes to me, I could just tell you've just had a baby, because you get all the little sticking up baby hairs.
Yes, I have that so bad right now. I have so many dumb little sticking up hairs. It's the worst. But I'm like, I guess at least they're growing back.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they're all growing back. It's like half are growing back brown, brunette, and half are growing back gray. I have so many more gray hairs now. Having a baby's great.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. But what's up with you? How's things?
Not too much. So yeah, today is June. So I know we've spoken before, but the seasons here literally start on like the first day of X month. So today is the first day of winter. It's a beautiful sunny day, but it is very cold, and we're doing work at our house. So like one of our walls is literally plastic at the moment. So I'm like, this is great for the winter cold, but hopefully it'll be a proper wall soon. But no, not too much. Just Monday back into it. Feels like we never went on holidays, straight back into life, and it's just busy. But all good. Everyone's well, which I hope. Well, my daughter said today, she's like, I've got a sore throat. I'm like, I do a little bit too, but I feel it's just the change of seasons.
Oh yeah,
really
that's the worst.
Gets cold. Yeah, so hopefully we'll go through without any sickness. Well, I'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah. All right, do you want to do our Patreons? I think I did them last time.
Yep. So we do have some new patrons. Thank you very much. And we also have another listener of the week. We had a lot of comments, especially I feel like we get a good amount of comments, but a lot of people had a lot to say last week about Mackenzie Sherrill, which is not surprising.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of comments about that. But the patrons this week are Sarah H, Sarah O, Abby, Kaya, I hope I've got that right, Isabel, Amanda, Sian, I also hope that's right, Lucy, Coral, and Erica. And our listener of the week was Nicole. She said, I've been listening for several years now and I've loved every episode. Your podcast has helped me through many phases of life, including currently maternity leave. Steph, we currently have a lot in common. Love hearing about baby Jack. I feel like I know you two so well, but I'd love to know more. Perhaps you guys can talk about how you met and started the podcast together. Maybe you did this before I was a listener. Great work. Keep it up. So we have done that a few times, maybe more so on Patreon. We've done a few little catch-up chats. So maybe we'll do another one soon. Just for any new listeners who want to know a little bit more, we can do a quick recap about how we met. Because now it's been nearly 10 years, I think. I think we started 2017 True Crime Society. So
That's so
been
crazy.
nearly 10 years, a long time.
And what do I have to show for it? No, I'm just kidding.
I definitely have a lot more gray hairs, but
Even I was thinking, I've said this before on here too, but I was just thinking about like when we started doing the podcast and stuff, that's like 6 years ago now. But I'm like, people who have always listened have seen me basically grow up in a sense of being like, when I moved into my apartment was before we started the podcast, but it was in my apartment when I bought a house, when I got married, I had a baby, was pregnant. So I've gone through a lot of life stages on the podcast, which is fun. So I'm glad everyone's been along for the ride.
Yes. It's definitely been a ride.
Yeah. And it's still going strong. All right. Let's get into the case we're talking about today. Is that one that it's an older one, I would say, but it's one that I think about randomly all the time. I don't know why. It's just one of those ones that always stuck with me. I remember I heard it on, I think, Sword and Scale, when Sword and Scale was like still acceptable and cool to listen to. Back in the day when it was like actually good. But he did an episode on this case. It's the case of Maddie Clifton. She was a little girl who was killed by her neighbor, who was also a child. It's brought up a lot of controversy and discussion about how child offenders should be treated as well, which is interesting.
Breaking news from the ABC 25 newsroom.
Good afternoon. I'm Bruce Hamilton, live in the Lakewood section of Jacksonville, where just about 7.5 hours ago, a gruesome discovery was made. Little 8-year-old Maddie Clifton's body was found in a house that, ironically, is diagonally across from hers. If you've been following the story, as all of the First Coast has, it began unfolding last Tuesday evening at about 5:50 when Maddie disappeared. And until this morning, when Misty Phillips came out of her house at 7:28 a.m. and flagged down Officer Don Teaton, who was on routine surveillance here in this neighborhood, a surveillance that's been posted ever since Maddie disappeared, it was only then that we found out what happened. He walked into the house and he discovered the little girl's lifeless body. It had been stuffed inside a waterbed. Now, this begs the question, why didn't police find it before? Because they'd been in that house 3 times, and Sheriff Nat Glover talked about that. He said, we don't go tearing open furniture during the course of an investigation, and it's just not a logical place that we would have looked. Now, there is a 14-year-old boy, Misty's son, Josh, who is being questioned at this hour at police headquarters downtown. Last we heard, he's not been officially charged. A news conference getting underway downtown. ABC 25's Susan Biggers is there with the latest. Susan.
In the fall of 1998, a tight-knit Florida neighborhood was united by a single mission: find 8-year-old Madelyn Clifton. Flyers covered telephone poles, search parties combed the streets, and worried neighbors opened their homes to help. But as the desperate search stretched on, a chilling truth was hiding in plain sight. The person who knew exactly what had happened to Maddie wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows. It was a boy from just down the street. And the secret he was keeping would leave an entire community stunned and turn a heartbreaking missing persons case into one of the most shocking crimes in modern true crime history. So Madelyn Clifton was 8 years old when she disappeared from her home in Jacksonville, Florida on November 3rd, 1998. Her body would be found a week later underneath a waterbed in the home of her teenage neighbor, Josh Phillips, who was 14. So this case garnered a lot of media attention at the time due to their ages. So we'll start with some background on those involved with the case like we usually do. So Maddie Ray Clifton was born on June 17th, 1990 in Jacksonville, Florida. Her parents are Steve and Sheila Clifton, and she has an older sister named Jessie. Maddie's family have been described as being close-knit, and their home was said to be a place of love and laughter. Maddie loved music, and she played the piano. She also loved playing basketball, football, and was a talented dancer. Maddie was a joy to those who knew her, and she was brimming with life, energy, and enthusiasm. Then there's Josh Phillips, who was born on March 17th, 1984, to Steve and Melissa Missy Phillips. From what we can ascertain, Steve had at least 2 children from previous relationship named Daniel and Benji. Steve was said to have struggled with drugs and alcohol addiction and was violent towards both his wife and son. Steve was said to be very strict with Josh. Missy gave some interviews in the later years where she spoke about the family dynamics, and she said, "I think if he hadn't been so intimidating and sometimes overbearing, and he could be frightening. He could be loud and he could be unpredictable. Josh and I walked on eggshells. Before we get into the rest of the episode, we have a quick word from our sponsor, Quince. Summer always makes me rethink what I'm reaching for every day. With the hot weather, I want some lighter fabrics, better materials, and especially being postpartum, I just wanted to totally revamp my wardrobe. I wanted to get more pieces that just feel good the moment that you put them on and look effortless. That's why I keep coming back to Quince. They focus on high quality essentials, think breathable linen, soft organic cotton, washable silk, but without the luxury markup. It's that rare balance where everything feels elevated but still easy. I have a couple of the Mongolian crew neck sweaters that I love from them. They're so light, they feel comfortable, and I feel confident wearing them. And I've also gotten a bunch of their bamboo sleepers for baby Jack, and I love putting him in them because I know he's going to be comfortable all night long. And they are high quality. I also have some baby bodysuits from them as well. And when I got them, I was actually so surprised at how nice they felt considering how affordable they were.
So Quince has beautiful everyday pieces like 100% European linen pants, dresses, and tops with styles starting at $32. Their denim is soft and easy to wear, and their organic cotton sweaters are perfect for layering on cool summer nights. And it's not just clothing. Quince has really become a destination for elevated essentials across home, kitchen, bedding, and beyond, making it easy to bring a more premium feel into everyday life. Elevate your summer wardrobe now. Go to quince.com/TCS for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/TCS for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCS.
Missy said her husband didn't like neighborhood children to be in the house when no adults were home, and he didn't want Josh playing with girls younger than him. She said, I remember he didn't have a fondness of little girls. I remember when I was pregnant thinking, please let it be a boy, please let it be a boy. I wasn't sure what it would be like if I had a girl, and that's something that I haven't really said to many people.
It's very strange. Like even, I understand the thing about no children being in the house without an adult, but then for him to, and even the thing about Josh not playing with younger girls, I feel like that's not totally inappropriate to say, but it's just a weird aspect for her to say that he wasn't fond of little girls. Like, I don't know.
But it's also why did that even come up?
Yeah, I don't know. I agree. I just thought that was a weird thing, but that she's quoted a lot in articles talking about that type of, that opinion that she had. So it's just a weird kind of insert to the case.
I think Steve seems like a weird, abusive asshole, and it seems like a lot of this could also be blamed on him, which we'll probably talk about more at the end. But so Steve moved Missy and Josh from Pennsylvania to Florida, which meant that Josh was separated from his half-brothers. By November 1998, Josh and his parents were living in Jacksonville. Josh was described by neighbors as being quiet and friendly. A school teacher said that Josh was fun and silly and did nothing negative that caused him to stand out from the rest of the students. He had a C average in school. So Josh and Madelyn were friends who often played together, which does seem kind of weird considering he was 14 and she was 8. But I know
also
that
his father had said he didn't like them playing with younger girls, but I don't know. I just thought that was
maybe that was why he said maybe since they were neighbors, just they hung out and because of the proximity. And also Madelyn, we'll mention below, I think Josh hung out with the older sister too, so maybe they hung out in a group.
Yeah, hung out kind of by proxy. They were just all together and, probably just the neighborhood kids played all together.
Yeah, but still just kind of a weird age gap. Sheila said there was no cause for concern in terms of the friendship. Jessie, Maddie's sister, also used to play with Josh. She said that he was a pretty decent kid. So Josh would give his version of events about what happened on Tuesday, November 3rd, 1998. He said that he was home alone when Maddie came over and asked him to play baseball around 5 p.m. Josh said that he agreed even though his father was strict about him not having any friends over when his parents were at home. Josh said that he was playing baseball with Maddie when he accidentally hit the ball into her eye. He said she began crying and screaming and bleeding. Josh said that he knew Steve would be home soon and began to panic because he was worried about how his father would react, which is understandable considering he was abusive, apparently.
Yeah.
Josh said that he dragged Maddie into the house, alleging that her clothing on her lower body came off as he did so, which Doesn't really make sense, but okay.
Yeah.
He then said that he beat Maddie with a baseball bat to stop her from screaming before hiding her under the base of his bed. So around this time, Steve returned home from work. Josh went and spoke to his father before going back to his room. Josh said that when he discovered Maddie was alive and moaning under the bed, he got a knife from his Leatherman tool and stabbed her multiple times in the chest, as well as cutting her throat, which is like, whoa, that escalated quickly. Like it was already escalating, but that was just like a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So Maddie was reported missing by her family around 6:30 p.m. Sheila realized that something was wrong when she called Maddie and Jesse in for dinner. And Jessie went home and told her mother that she had not been with Maddie and that she did not know where she was. Her father said it was like she shut the door and just poof, vanished off the face of the earth. The Cliftons and their neighbors began searching the neighborhood with flashlights. Josh and his parents were among the volunteers who tried to find Maddie. The search grew, and over the next few days, thousands of people looked for the little girl. Josh said of his thought process at the time, I was putting myself in a fantasy world that nothing had happened. That was my defense mechanism for everything when I was a kid. I never made the decision to ignore it. I just did. On the morning of Tuesday, November 10th, 1998, Missy went into Josh's room and said that she noticed a wet spot on the floor. She said, I noticed the wet spot on the floor. That's what started me looking at the bed. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. After Missy discovered Maddie's body, she left the house and went looking for a policeman, as many of them were still in the neighborhood searching. She said she remembers looking at the Cliftons' house and thinking that they still had hope, but that in a minute they would know that their daughter was dead. Law enforcement went to Josh's school and he was arrested. He confessed to the murder within hours. Sheriff Nat Glover explained how an officer found Maddie's body. When the officer went into the room, they could see her feet hanging out from under Josh's mattress, which again was a waterbed. Police said as they removed Maddie's body, her hand was found clutching the frame of Josh's bed. They said she was still alive when he pushed her underneath. Josh had taped the bed frame so that Maddie's body would remain hidden. He had hidden the baseball bat behind his dresser. Air fresheners were found on his nightstand, and authorities could tell that incense had recently been burned. A missing person poster for Maddie was also found in his room.
As you all know, Maddie was found this morning by the mother of the suspect. She was securely encased in the base of a waterbed. As you all can see on the diagram here, the waterbed mattress was on top of her. This is a piece of plywood here that separates a cavity here. We got about 400 pounds of water here, and this is secured. You have an aerial view here, and you can see the body was in somewhat of a fetal position. The mother went into the suspect's room this morning, and she noticed a fluid coming from under the bed. That, coupled with an odor, apparently aroused her suspicion, and she pulled out the corner of the bed right here. When she pulled that open, she could see the feet of the victim. At that time, she went to notify the officers, and she notified Officer Tootin, who was in the neighborhood and who had been assigned there all night.
An autopsy would discover that Maddie had suffered 3 blows to the head. It also confirmed Josh's story that he had cut her throat with a knife and that she had been stabbed 7 times in the chest. Josh's tennis shoes were also covered with blood. Maddie was not wearing the shorts and underwear that she had been seen in when she left her home. They were found near her body. Jessie told authorities that Josh had spoken about sex with both her and Maddie. An autopsy found that there were no signs of sexual abuse or assault. The lack of sand and dirt on Maddie's body didn't support Josh's story about her clothing having come off when he dragged her inside. No blood was found in the backyard or on the baseball that Josh said struck Maddie in the head, so this lack of evidence also led to questions about his version of events, which I don't know. I feel like as someone who played softball growing up, I feel like if she got hit in the face with the baseball, like I don't think it's weird that the baseball didn't have blood on it. Like she might have been only bleeding a little. It's not like
she would have had
a
big. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think it's also especially weird that there was no blood on the baseball. The whole thing about her clothing coming off is strange. So it makes, like, as far as I can tell, he's never really deviated from this story. But I wonder if there's more to why her clothes were off, which I don't doubt, actually.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lie. Like, because also, why would he be dragging her inside? Couldn't he just be like, "Oh, come inside. Like, I'll help you."
Yeah,
like they were friends. Unless he just panicked and was dragging her and she was fighting, but it just seems weird considering there were two friends playing together, even if she was hurt. So it was also discovered that after Maddie had been killed, Josh watched pornography in his room. Patrol Sergeant Tom Hackney would later speak about Josh being arrested and called the interaction chilling. He said he was cool as a cucumber. He was absolutely not shocked. Our engagement with him was actually in the bedroom where she was recovered, and he sat on the bed petting his dog and just was as unemotional, unaffected by law enforcement being in his house. It's chilling thinking about it now. Maddie's mother spoke after her daughter's body was found. She said, Josh, this is her quoting Josh. So Josh said, "What's going on? Well, I'll come out and look for her." All the time he knew exactly where she was, acted as if nothing ever happened. Maddie's father said, quoting Josh, so Maddie's father said, "My mom thought maybe you could use this picnic table. So I met him in the street and carried it over and said, 'Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it.' It's just ironic that he went to bed that night with Maddie right under him and went to sleep just like any other night." Missy said that Josh had been very quiet the week after Maddie disappeared. She said, "I attributed it to the fact that he was scared. Someone he knew, someone in the neighborhood had disappeared." Missy also spoke about the scrutiny that her family suffered after Josh was arrested. She said, "So many times I'd hear people remark, 'What's wrong with that family? Why didn't they see this? And why didn't they notice that?' Because there wasn't anything there out of the ordinary for me to notice. I came home from work that night. There was nothing wrong with my house." I think it's kind of like along the lines of what you said, of what we've said in the past, of just like, well, yeah, you would never expect that your son murdered another little girl and hid her body under his bed.
And from like all accounts, like obviously there was something wrong with Josh for him to do this, but there wasn't really any prior instances, or things that would have maybe, like that we know of anyway, that would have caused Missy to be concerned. Like even if he was slightly odd, like he's a 14-year-old boy, they can be, teenagers are a little bit strange anyway. So I feel like, it's not like he had this noted history of being abusive or, that they would have ever suspected him. You would never in a million years think that your 14-year-old son could do something like this.
Yeah. Missy also said that her husband became angry at the Cliftons after Josh was arrested. She said, "He was angry at the Cliftons and I didn't understand why. He would say some things and I'd say, 'How can you say that? How can you be this way?' It's like he almost, I don't want to say he blamed them, but he had misdirected anger or grief." Josh was tried as an adult. His trial was moved from Duval County to Polk County in an effort to ensure that he got a fair trial due to all the local publicity. Josh's lawyer was Richard Nichols, and he employed the risky tactic of not calling a single witness for the defense. The attorney based much of the argument on his claim that Maddie's death was an act that began as an accident and deteriorated through panic that bordered on madness. Josh would later say that the attorney never questioned him about the murder and that they played chess together when he visited jail prior to the trial.
I find it so interesting that he didn't call a single witness. Like what?
I don't know.
Did he really think that his, madness theory was going to be so strong that he'd get through? I just can't see any benefit to not calling a single witness in, even to aid the defense of his client.
Even just people to say like that he was a good kid or something.
Yeah. Like there was, no one had ever noticed anything.
Minimum.
And yeah, absolutely. It's a crazy. And also I don't know, I have so many questions. Do the parents know that this was going to be the tactic? Do they agree with it? I guess you just think that a lawyer knows best and he knows what he's doing. I don't know. It's just a very strange strategy.
Yeah, I agree. The Trial began on July 6, 1999, and only lasted for 2 days, which was due to the defense not calling any witnesses. Josh's mother said Richard would say certain things, that he'd do this or do that, and in the 11th hour, he just wouldn't do them. I'd be angry about it. So she said, I thought you'd do this, and that's not helping Josh. And then Steve would tell me, he's the professional, he's the lawyer, so just stay out of it. The jury only took 2 hours to convict Josh on the charge of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He was not eligible for the death penalty because he was under 16 years of age.
So after he entered prison, Josh completed his general education development, or his GED. He joined a prison band and plays guitar. He apparently participates in Christian religious services and yoga. Even the prosecution have called him a model prisoner, which is interesting. In June of 2000, Josh's father was killed in a car accident, and this is an excerpt from an article about what happened. It says, police said Steve, who was 50, was driving his van on County Road 267 when the vehicle veered off the right shoulder. Steve apparently overcorrected, and the van went back across the road to the opposite shoulder and overturned. Steve was thrown out and died at the scene. He was not wearing a seatbelt. So that was only 1 year after Josh went to prison. Still, 50 is very young. So it's a lot of tragedy for that family. Obviously, Josh brought a lot of it on themselves, but then for Steve to die, it's just the whole case is just tragic.
Yeah.
In 2002, an appeal was undertaken on Josh's behalf. The Florida 2nd District Court of Appeal upheld his conviction at that time. In December 2004, Missy began to seek a new trial for Josh. In November 2005, the Supreme Court of Florida set a hearing date for the following month to decide if Josh should receive a new trial. In 2008, Josh wrote a letter of apology to Maddie's family. He asked if they would meet him in person so they could apologize, as they wouldn't be able to see his sincerity in a letter. And Maddie's mother has said that she had no interest at that time in speaking to Josh, which is understandable. That was only, 10 years since her daughter died. I know some people want to forgive, but I can understand absolutely why she didn't want to see him.
Yeah, what would that do for her, really?
Yeah. Also, in 2008, there were two of the officials who were most responsible for Josh's life sentence. Their names were Harry Shorstein and Sheriff Nat Glover. They both admitted that they were having second thoughts about giving a life sentence without the possibility of parole to a child. Harry Shorstein said that he regretted not offering Josh a second-degree murder plea, which would have given the judge more discretion in sentencing. And he has also voiced his support for eventual clemency or parole for Josh. The sheriff said, I know some people thought the original sentence was appropriate, but that was a tough sentence for someone that young. I never got the feeling that it was a malicious, mean-spirited, calculated murder. It was kind of an impulsive act given a different set of circumstances would never have happened. So interesting, with some hindsight, the sheriff is now thinking that maybe Josh's sentence was too harsh. I don't really know if I agree, but that is what his thoughts were as of 2008. So in 2012, the Supreme Court of the United States case of Miller versus Alabama ruled that sentencing juveniles to mandatory life in prison without parole is unconstitutional, and Josh's attorneys would later use this to file another appeal in later years. So over the years, there's been multiple appeals, multiple kind of back and forth in the legal process in this case to determine if Josh's sentence is fair. No one's ever disputing that he actually committed the murder, but I guess it's that due to his age, if the sentence he received was fair.
Yeah.
So Josh's brother Daniel spoke to the media in 2017. He went on to say, I wish Josh had never left Pennsylvania. So that's when Steve kind of uprooted the family, moved Josh away from his half-brothers, and essentially Josh, he's indicating, was isolated and, had no other family support. Mm-hmm. He went on to say, I could say that a million times, but it's not going to change anything. He said, our father took Joshua away from me. He said he would have had me, he would have had his other brother Benji, he would have been an uncle to my kids, and he would have assimilated into my life here. But when they went down there, he had nobody, and that was my father's choice. It didn't matter, how much we begged him not. My father did what he was going to do, and nobody would have had anything to do with it. Daniel also spoke about how it was tough for him as his kids grew up and they became Maddie's age, how it was kind of tough for him to deal with what his brother had done. He said, when all three of my kids would turn 8, which was Maddie's age when she died, it made it tougher for me. I would get angry and I wouldn't write to him and I wouldn't be involved with him. I've been back and forth because I'm a human and I'm a father and I'm a parent, but I'm also a brother. So as we mentioned earlier, Josh's case and sentence was re-looked at by the court in 2017. And this is an excerpt from an article on that time from jacksonville.com. It says in 1999, he was sentenced to be locked up for life. At the time, his sentence was automatic, but much has changed since then between evolving science on the development of the adolescent brain and a series of US and Florida Supreme Court decisions. The bottom line is now that it is unlawful to blanketly sentence youthful offenders to life behind bars. A life sentence should be rare. Judge Waddell Wallace spoke for a little more than 30 minutes during the hearing about the sea change in society when it comes to youthful offenders and said that it sounded him to sentence Josh to life. He went on to say this is an extraordinary case. The judge urged Josh to stay on the path of being a problem-free prisoner and said that he hoped he'd find a meaningful purpose while incarcerated. The judge also remarked on the sheer coldness of the crime. He said, he said that Josh's detachment at the time gave the judge great concern, and it was said that Josh noticeably avoided looking at him as he read the ruling. He said he was not convinced society would be safe if Josh was to be set free. He went on to say it is appropriate to impose a life sentence in a case that's a truly unusual case. Irredeemable depravity or the worst of the worst or circumstances that are truly unique and different from the ordinary. I believe this is one of the most rare and unusual crime that warrants life in prison. So at that time, Jessie, who was Maddie's sister, spoke and she said, I have a lot of emotions right now, but I am happy. I think this is justice for Maddie and for my family. She also said, I think today is a wonderful day. I thank God and the criminal justice system. I'm very happy with the way that things turned out. So Josh's life sentence was again upheld in December 2019. The Florida First District Court of Appeal said that his sentence could be reviewed again and possibly modified in 2023. As far as we can tell, nothing really happened in 2023. There's nothing public anyway about it. Just this last month, which was May 2026, on May 6th, Josh, who is now in his early 40s, voluntarily withdrew his application for a sentence review. He said he wanted to better address rehabilitation concerns that had been raised by a state expert before he returned to the court. He wrote, upon filing my application for sentence review and returning to Duval County for these proceedings, my family and I were excited as well as nervous. I was quite confident and still am that upon release, I would lead a productive and meaningful life, absolutely free of any fears of a return to incarceration. So despite this, though, Josh said that his confidence shifted after he reviewed a report written by the state's expert witness, Dr. Gregory Pritchard. He went on to say, this became more clear to me after interviews with various experts since returning to Jacksonville, most especially so after reading the report written by the expert witness. According to Josh, the report identified several areas of concern related to his rehabilitation, including a lack of professional counselling related to the crime and his childhood, early exposure to pornography, general identity issues, sexual identity, and also a drug addiction that developed after his incarceration, which is interesting to me because they've said he was this model prisoner, but he did apparently have access to drugs in prison and developed an addiction. Josh also said that he'd attempted to enroll in the Department of Corrections programs to address some of those issues, but he said that he was turned away. He said, I did attempt to do some of the programs for some of these issues, but was refused due to my status as a lifer. I was told in very clear terms that it was not allowed. He said that he decided to do self-study on some of those subjects instead. And he went on to say, after reading Dr. Pritchard's report, it became clear to me that although self-educating on the topics mentioned above is laudable, it is not a substitute to true professional counselling and therapy. Josh did say that he intends to resubmit his application for resentencing after he addresses the concerns that were outlined in the doctor's report. It says, per the filing, the sentencing court retains original jurisdiction for the duration of the sentence for a purpose of a future sentence review hearing. Josh went on to say, armed with the information now at my disposal, I have no doubts that after this withdrawal of my application and subsequent return to prison, that I will be able to address every concern mentioned by Dr. Pritchard in his report. He also said at this time another apology to Maddie's family. He said, as always, I wish to convey my deepest apologies to Maddie's family for the reopening of wounds that any legal action in my case surely causes. So that was literally a month ago that all this happened. I feel so horrible for Maddie's family that this needs to keep being reopened and re-looked at. You know, we're now at nearly 30 years since she passed away. It's still, I don't even know how they can ever get closure, always with the thought that Josh may be able to get out one day. I know, some people forgive. They have every right to not do that, like as part of their closure. Maybe they, don't want to. And I, as a mother, I would absolutely want the person who killed my daughter to be in jail forever, no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's just horrible that they have to keep going through all this.
Yeah, I agree. Like, as her parents, obviously, I'd want him to be in jail for the rest of his life. But I think this case brings up a lot of points about like how juvenile offenders are treated. Because if you think about it, like someone who gets life in prison when they're 14 years old versus someone who gets life in prison when they're 30, 40 years old, that's like a huge difference.
Yeah.
And who's to say, like, should someone who's a child like not get the chance to be rehabilitated? Does it mean that they're permanently dangerous? Like, also with his upbringing, like he's just a kid, but then you're also like, but he slit her throat and stabbed her in the chest 7 times. To me, there's like no right answer, it seems like, because each side, I agree with each side, points from each side, because I'm like, should something a 14-year-old kid who was abused and very afraid of his father, should something that he did really just end his life, essentially? Like, his life is also over. But then when you think about it from the other side of what he did was very heinous and depraved, then I'm like, yeah, he should be in jail for the rest of his life.
Even the part how he participated in the search for Maddie, like he took supplies to Maddie's family, the picnic table and all that to help them. Like I don't know if it was calculated. Like, I do agree he was probably, like, his brain probably wasn't developed enough to know how to deal with it. But the right thing to do would have been to tell authorities straight away that there's been this accident. Whereas he, like he said, he just kind of ignored it. He just didn't ever make a decision to be that calculated. He just kind of, went along with it. I guess, what would you even think was going to happen? Like, she was under his bed. She was going to be found at some point. It's just this weird thought process that shows you, and I am not sticking up for him because I believe he should be in jail, but just shows you how he wasn't emotionally equipped or developed enough to deal with any of the consequences of any of this.
Yeah, and you hear a lot with children who are abused, or even anyone in an abusive relationship, that they dissociate as a defense mechanism. It kind of seems like what he did with this, of like, he said that he didn't choose to ignore it. He just did. Like, that was like his defense mechanism. I guess I lean more towards like, yeah, he should be in prison for the rest of his life.
I find it interesting because even though this case happened a while ago, and I know it has been in the media again with his resentencing withdrawal, but I was reading some Reddit comments just from a few weeks ago, and someone made a really good point, which I hadn't thought about, that basically he's been in prison since he was 14. He is now probably institutionalized. He has never ever really known a life outside of prison. Like, I don't know. I know he's talking about he will be resubmitting his resentencing request, but it would also be terrifying for him. Like, he's never known a life outside of this. Is he able to live a life outside of prison? I don't know. There's just so many things to consider when someone has been in jail from such a young age. It's not like he went to jail when he was 40 and he had a family and he had a life. He had no life up until that point. His father died while he was in jail. Yeah, exactly. So it's another interesting point to consider when thinking about, should he be let out? Maddie's family did speak after this May 2026 development. Jessie, the sister, said, basically, from what I can deduce, the family believe he should be in prison, which that is their right. I also probably agree with that.
Yeah, if I was them, I would think the same.
She said Maddie didn't get a second chance. She didn't get to grow up, graduate, fall in love, or have a family of her own. Maddie's sentence was final and her killers should be too. Jessie said that she will testify at his resentencing and will read a victim impact statement. She said, this time I'm really going to sit down. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to write something that's going to hopefully make him feel, I guess that's not really the goal, really to make him feel bad. That's not my intention. But I want him to see how bad I'm hurting and that I don't really care that he's hurting and wants to get out of jail. My hurt is forever and his should be also. She went on to say he knew how badly she was hurt and he could have gotten help twice and she was still alive. And that, to me, I just can't see past child brain, adult brain, alien brain. I don't care. I truly do not. I think you know right from wrong, which is essentially all it comes down to. He knew it was wrong. He tried to cover it up. Even for her to be clutching the bed frame when they found her shows that she was still alive. There was plenty of opportunities where he could have gotten help for her, but instead he just, maybe it was panic, I don't know, but he still had all these opportunities, and every single person would know what is right and wrong to do in that situation.
Yeah, I agree. See, now I'm like, fuck him.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just hard because it is sad on both sides because they were both so young, but it really, what Maddie went through is horrible. All she was trying to do was play baseball with her neighbor friend and accidentally got hurt. Plus, we didn't touch on if we think that he was lying about how her clothes came off. Like, what is with that? Like, I think obviously there's a lie there, but I don't necessarily know what to make of it.
I agree. I just I don't know. And I don't even really want to speculate, but maybe, he was trying to, I don't know, do something creepy. And then she's like, I'm going to tell my mom. And that's kind of all where it went, like something like along those lines. I don't know. But it's, that part of the story definitely doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't make sense.
I found it interesting too. There's another similar case with that I read about when I was researching this. Very, very similar, where a 15-year-old named Curtis Cooper murdered his 7-year-old neighbor, Sarah Hodges, and hid her body behind a waterbed. This happened in 1989, though, but Curtis did end up being released when he was there's varying reports on how old he was, but he did essentially get out of prison. So it's just interesting too. I know that was a little bit older, so things obviously progress and develop as research, and they learn more about, the adolescent brain, as we mentioned, but it's just not one uniform punishment for crimes like this, which is an interesting take, I guess, as well, and maybe will be used by Josh's legal team.
Yeah. It's also just like the more I think about it, it's like I also just wouldn't be okay knowing like someone was free and he cut a little girl's throat.
Absolutely.
Like how do you go on to live a normal life after that? Even if you are rehabilitated, once you do something like that, how can you go back?
And there is a lot of conjecture online, like people speculating about things like Josh had maybe stolen a photo of Maddie in a gymnastics leotard, and that was found in his room. I remember
reading that, actually.
Yeah, so things like that, which kind of indicate, and I would also probably suspect that this was sexually motivated and that she threatened to tell on him, and that's why he kind of was like, shit, what am I going to do? I don't think this was a baseball accident, just, totally off the cuff. So, yeah.
And in that sense, then I definitely think that he should be
absolutely
in jail forever for his life.
So I guess, there are two sides to every story. Is a 14-year-old capable should a 14-year-old be held totally responsible for something when their brain actually is not physically developed? But then I guess, you commit a crime, you have to do the time.
Gotta do the time.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like it seems like this was one of those things. And even now, as far as I can tell, he's never really admitted culpability. He's never said, yep, I did this because of this reason. He's always still claimed it was an accident and he just didn't know what he was doing and he panicked and covered it up. So, very sad.
Well, let us know what you guys think, because there's lots to say and think about this case. So I'll be interested to hear what everyone thinks. But that is it for this episode. So thank you guys for listening. Everything will be on the blog at truecrimesocietyblog.com. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at True Crime Society. We're always posting updates there and new stories. If you want to check out our personal accounts, mine's StephSum_, Olivia's TCS Olivia. And make sure you check us out on Patreon if you like the podcast and want more content from us. We do weekly bonus episodes, and all the episodes are ad-free, and we do earlier release of this main episode. So you get 2 episodes a week without ads, plus it's just a community on there. We have group chats and all different things going on. So check us out on there. And all the usual stuff. You could leave comments on Spotify, share to your Instagram story, show us what you guys are doing while you're listening to the podcast. We'll give it a reshare. We love to see what everyone's up to. But that is it. So thank you guys so much for listening. Love you all. Stay safe. Peace out.
See ya.